Hi, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining us this Friday afternoon. We appreciate you being here. My name is Cree Crawford. I am the co-founder, president, COO of Ionization Labs, and I'm joined by my associate, Byron Attridge. And the first slide here is kind of, I want to share with you what we do aggregately. So Ionization Labs is an agriculture technology solutions company. And we'll go over where that stands in this whole process of how we've developed the understanding of the importance of potency testing for low-level THC and high-level THC cannabinoids. So we offer two different types of services with our company. Ionization Labs offers nationwide cannabinoid testing out of our research and development lab here in Austin, Texas. We can offer QA/QC testing now, and we have been. We perform about an average of over 1,000 tests a month right now, aggregately. And in July, we'll be able to perform a COA test for the state of Texas through the TDA. The product that we've developed, the solution that we've developed through our understanding and expertise in cannabinoids dealing with in the hemp space is CanID, and we'll go into that later. But the main point of this webinar is to go over the importance and the practical application of potency, cannabinoid potency, and we're very excited to share that with you. Byron, this is Byron. I wanted Byron to kind of tell him a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully this will be valuable to everybody involved, to understand a little bit more about, something that isn't necessarily the sexiest part of the hemp equation, but it certainly is very critical to the profitability and the quality of what is put out into the industry, the products that are coming out, the crops that are coming out, people's output in terms of extracts and distillates and formulations. So I traditionally had been in the technology industry for most of my career, up until about 3 years ago when I entered the hemp industry. Kind of was following a personal mission to try to help bring the health and wellness and economic benefits of hemp, into the mainstream population. So with that, I'll get back over to Cree and we'll get going.
Okay, great. Thank you, Byron. My name is Cree Crawford. Like I said in the originally here, I'm the co-founder, president, COO of Green Ocean Sciences, which is the parent company of Ionization Labs. I have been in the cultivation space of the sister to hemp for a number of years, which is actually what got me started into the focus on cannabinoid research and the development of testing as a solution. I'm honored to be a member of the Texas Hemp Industries Association as a board member, United Patients Group, Tennessee Growers Coalition. And recently we joined the AOAC CASP, which is Cannabis Analytical Science Program. We're an advisory panel member, the company is. I've done a number of scientific applications, specifically focused on specialty sensor and chemo application focuses for the DoD, National Science Institute, and USOCOM. So very excited to apply some of these skill sets to this incredible plant. As I shared with you, here's some of our accolades. We've worked very hard to associate with our company, and we're really proud to be members of these groups. But I started this company as a cultivator out in California, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard stories about when testing started out becoming a requirement. And that was a number of years ago in California. It was actually not a requirement a number of years ago, about six years ago. It was more of a request from the dispensaries that you would donate product to. And I got into this space because of the medicinal value that I saw in this plant for a number of therapeutic applications. And if you were going to call something medicine, I said, absolutely, this is a tremendous thing that we're going to start doing testing. Let's get product out to labs. So I would send in samples from my field, and I would wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would wait over a month sometimes to get my results back. And I said, this is going to be interesting as the industry expands across the United States and throughout the states. It's going to be very challenging. So that was a challenge. I saw it as an industry challenge. I then heard rumors about people sending in different samples and having different results come back with a very large discrepancy. And so I actually did an experiment myself. I took a large bud and I cut it into 3 different parts, and I sent that bud into a lab over a period of 3 weeks. I would start to get the results back, unfortunately, about 4 weeks later. And those results were ridiculously skewed, north of 25%, 30%. And at that point, I said, there's got to be a solution out there. There's got to be something we can do to be able to support the farmers. The extractors were just coming online at that time. Something we could do to support the industry with something that was scalable, a testing data device that could be scalable. So I reached out to a friend of mine here in Austin, Texas, a gentleman named Alex Andrawas, who's a very large, he owns a large wine gifting company and did a lot of testing in the wine and agricultural space. And we touched base and we said, let's come up with a solution that is simple, cost-effective, and accurate. And we set out on a mission to define what that was. And along the way, we also determined that potency was the absolute #1 most prevalent data point that supports industry operations. And so it's really the hub, and everything is the spokes around it, because at the end of the day, potency is what's going to give you your first of all, your legality, where you're at in compliance, and it's also going to give you your crop's value. So we determined that potency was the #1 most volumetric test, and that was required. And we built a whole company around that because of the importance of potency. I can go into details on the company later on in the webinar, but the main point is to really discuss why potency is so important. And so with that, the importance of cannabinoids potency data. Cannabinoid potency is one of the most integral data points that impacts the hemp industry. And as I just shared with you, it's the data point that allows you to understand its legality, because hemp, sadly, can become illegal. I heard our Vice Commissioner of Agriculture here once, Dan Hunter, say, we don't have illegal, there's no such thing as illegal tomatoes or illegal corn, but we have illegal hemp. So it threw a real interesting layer of complexity into this industry. So potency allows us to understand that your crop is legal. And again, we discussed that potency is also what gives your crop's value. Now, as the hemp industry expands and matures, more testing is going to be required to service it. And we find this, a lot of you are already experienced growers and extractors, but growers, at the end of the season, you've got to get a number of tests into the state compliance office. And the challenge is it's been really hard to service a lot of those tests and getting them back to you in time. And that's one of the main challenges that we have in the industry as well. Standardized data is absolutely necessary. But one of the challenges we're facing is that there's so many different methods that are approved. There's so many different labs doing different techniques that we've got some real challenges with the data. So if the data is not consistent and accurate, what are we dealing with to begin with? Again, this slide to address the federal requirements that are passed down to a lot of the state hemp programs. And this is just reiterating what I've just shared with you. Testing options. Right now, there are 3 testing options. And Byron, if you'd please go over the 3 different testing options that are available
Yeah.
Go from there.
Yeah. So, essentially, if you're going to go and get potency data for either your crop or your extraction output, or your refined material, or anything that you're along the value chain that you're trying to test, you've really got essentially three major options. You can go to a third-party lab, which is the centralized, sort of model centralized testing. You can try to do it yourself by going out and buying the equipment to set up your own lab. The industry standard from a potency testing standpoint has been HPLC technology. That's really what's accepted in the industry as being the gold standard. And in doing so, if you are going to set up your own lab, then you're going to have to buy that equipment. You're going to have to set up a clean lab. You're going to have to get an analytical chemist and whatnot, and get into that. The third option that you have is really to go with a subscription-based or partner-based, kind of in-house testing solution. All right. So those three options are the ones that that you have available to you in the marketplace at this point. Obviously, and let's see. So which is the slide with the third party?
Yeah, so Byron, we're on that slide right now, and we jumped through to the other two pretty fast. But this is so I want to go. I actually want to take some time and go over.
Yeah, I want to go through this in a little bit more detail. I'm just kind of giving the overview. So, in terms of third-party labs, one of the great things about doing testing with a third-party lab is it's there's not a bunch of setup. There's not a bunch of capital cost. You send in your sample, they test it, and send it back to you. It's really simple. There's kind of no muss, no fuss. The disadvantages really end up coming into play when you start talking about how it's not really under your purview in terms of QA or QC. You a lot of times will run into slow turnaround times, typically 3 days to over a week, but sometimes it's up to 15 days during harvest time, when everybody's trying to send in their samples all at once. It's outside of your own organizational control, and an inexperienced lab might not know how to test various different kinds of materials that you're sending in for sample. They may have methods for those, and they may not. And so that's one of the things that you run into. Most of the labs don't offer any kind of data analytics or consulting services to try to help you out in terms of turning that testing data into actionable information for your business. So those are some of the disadvantages of going to a third-party lab. Advantages of doing it yourself in-house, it's all under your control. You get immediate results, and you don't have to ship samples. Sometimes the samples, one of the disadvantages is sometimes the samples can be compromised in shipping and things like that. There is a really large CapEx cost to setting up lab operations to do your own HPLC testing. Typically, you're looking at somewhere along the lines of maybe $150,000 to $250,000, depending on kind of some key decisions that you make as far as your space and how you're going to mix and prepare your reagents and samples and things like that. So it can be expensive and time consuming in order to manage all that. It's also time consuming and difficult to set up your method development. So you got to build out your lab, and then you got to do your method development. And what I mean by that is you have to develop a method by which you're going to do your sampling and testing. So that's not exactly totally straightforward, straight out of the chute for all the various different materials that you might be testing. the method for testing flower is different from the method for testing extract or distillate or isolate or any of those kinds of things. And so you have to become intimately familiar with each one of those materials and what the best method is for doing preparation of it. Another disadvantage is you're going to have to manage all your consumables, and you're going to have to produce reagents in your own lab to very, very precise specifications. And if you do not do it to very precise specifications, it's going to mess up all your results. So it is a pretty heavy duty and time intensive and capital intensive process that generally requires a full-time analytical chemist. And so those are some of the complexities of doing it yourself. Third option is to go with a subscription-based partner. We mention this because that's one of the core pieces of what we do. And this is a very solid, it's a great option for somebody who's wanting to do 50 plus tests a month. But, you know, if you're looking to do less than that and you don't want to, you know, bring that function in-house and everything, then the third-party lab, you know, maybe you're a better option. But the advantages of doing it this way are that, you know, Ionization Labs as a company really got started to simplify this testing function down into something, or even democratize it down into something that really anybody could do for themselves. So what we do is all the heavy lifting and we provide the systems, all the equipment, the training, the methods, and all the consumables as well that are already pre-mixed and measured, so that you can use resources that aren't necessarily an analytical chemist in order to execute. You get the advantage of having the ongoing support and maintenance and consumables behind it, and that support is given to you by a team of analytical chemists. So you don't have to employ the analytical chemist necessarily in-house. You can focus your time, effort, and energy on the part that really is going to get you to profitability, which is the data analytics. So now that you've, you know, tried to figure out which route you're going to go out of the three, what do you do from there?
Yeah. Thank you, Byron.
Turn it back over to Crete. So
let's get down to the nitty gritty on this potency testing and applied data. And so this is a really interesting concept, but it seems obvious, but it's not. But potency testing will give you data. It'll share with you, you know, down to parts per million, your percentage of a sampled product. You know, and you can get a test like that from any numerous locations, like those three different options. But when you apply that data with an understanding of the industry, which we're really excited about, it'll really contribute to profitability. Now, how does that happen? Well, when you've got practical business data, it's not just the data, it's how you use the data, right? So it's how you skin it and apply it. So again, potency data plus applied data means profitability and control over your operations. Now, I'm working with a knowledgeable data testing partner who understands the industry, which it's exciting, like we do. And again, I'm not trying to just push us right now. It really gives you a wonderful, holistic view of your business. So let's talk about how you can apply potency data. So in I'm going to talk about the agricultural side, and then Byron's going to share with you the data through precision extraction, because that's some of his background. So when you can understand your crops, so say you've got a field. Let's start with an acre. You've got an acre, and this acre you actually divided it up into two different strains. So you got a half an acre with one strain, half another. What you can do strategically, and this is what we share with some of our clients, is you do the grid pattern. It's a standard Z grid pattern. So it's corners, center, and corners. And what you do is as soon as your plants start to flower, you can start taking samples at the specific GPS coordinations in your field. And if you can do that over a period of time, you're going to start to see something incredible. And that is going to be the migration of cannabinoids throughout the growth cycle of your crop, which is really neat to see. And it's really neat to plot. We've got these that are, it's really exciting to see that. And a lot of you who are experienced at farmers and some of the new ones, you're going to understand that different little nuances, different things you can add, nutrients, different watering, will have a massive impact on your cannabinoids. And that is a good thing and also a bad thing. And we'll get into that too. But so let's go to this. So fertigation costs. Again, some of you might know this word, some might not. Fertigation is fertilization and irrigation costs. If you can go out to your field and you can start tracking what your cannabinoids are doing in the specific parts of your field, you'll understand that, oh, wait, maybe I'm overwatering over here, or I'm giving too many nutrients over here. It gives you total control over that. Crop management, you know how all the different input points that you are in control of, not weather, of course, but all the other outside elements of what you control can have an impact on cannabinoids. And there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity to do research on this area. Different nutrients might pop different cannabinoids at a different rate. And so this is really exciting to us. You also know your compliance position. Towards the end of the growth cycle, and you want to know where you're at. We've heard horror stories about farmers losing whole crops. Hawaii had some horrible examples of this, and there's a number of other states here in the country that have had some really horrible experiences where farmers just went over because they weren't either testing correctly or they were not testing fast enough. And if you wait to the last minute, sometimes a little heat bump might pump up your THC and you're going to be in a really tough spot. So the suggestion to know what your crop is doing and having the tools necessary and applying that data is really, really important. It's also, of course, will allow you to plan your harvest. So, it's kind of like parachute, or, it's something that Byron actually knows about, skydiving. It's kind of like, when you pull the chute. And it's really fun to wait to the last minute, but it also can have catastrophic impact, consequences, literally. So, but this can give you a little bit of an understanding, knowing what your altimeter is. That's really important. And when you can understand where your crop's going, you'll be able to get it to the point where you feel comfortable when you're going to pull the trigger and try to maximize the cannabinoid levels that you're trying to get with the focus of your crop. Another thing that we've been talking about, and we're talking to lawmakers as well, is, it's really challenging to throw this other element into a farmer. It really is. Again, we're not in control of weather. And so there's got to be an opportunity if the crop, even if they take a sample and it is hot, what can we do with testing and potency testing? What we can do is maybe set up some kind of report that you go out to the different parts of your field and find out where it is hot or where it's not hot. Maybe you can come up with a grid where you're like, okay, this is really hot. We're going to destroy this and remediate it, but it gives you a chance to possibly not destroy your whole crop. So again, this is another very, very exciting, very important application of data. A little bit later, I'm going to mention something about weather. There's a really exciting tool that we're bringing in as well. And if you can imagine being able to track the weather patterns, about 20 different weather points, barometric pressure, surface temperature, humidity, temperature, dew point, all these different data points. If you can track that daily or hourly, and you have that historical data, and every time you test your flower, you can absolutely then look historically back and say, okay, I understand what my nutrient impacts are. I understand what my weather, my irrigation impact is and what I've done with that. Now with the weather impact, you're going to get a really strong understanding of the variability that can affect the final result of the crop, which is, it's really composed of, it's a chemical profile. That's what this crop is. And the value is based on that. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity to take potency data and then other input data points and give you a truly exciting snapshot of what you've got. And we call that precision agriculture. And that is another thing that we are very excited about and excelling in at Ionization Labs. And then I'm going to turn this part over to Byron.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Cree. So in much the same way as Cree is talking about tracking the cannabinoid development in your crop and cultivation, you know, imagine, if you will, you know, what Cree was talking about, and taking your testing data and graphing it over time and just seeing that cannabinoid development rise, and you get to the point where you're like, okay, now it's time to harvest. I think we've maximized, you know, we're there. Well, you can do that same sort of thing with your extraction. Now, anybody that's attending that has ever done extraction in this industry will know what I'm talking about when I start talking about this. No batch of biomass is going to extract the same as the next. It doesn't happen. And, you know, in order to really get good at extraction and get optimized on your yield and your resource management and your time and everything, you really have to have that testing data. So in the same way as you would test your crop at various points along its development in order to plot that, when you get in a batch of hemp of biomass to do extraction on, you should be doing the same thing. Your first runs ought to be ones that you're doing intermittent testing throughout that run. And you're seeing what the output is all throughout that run. Because what that's going to do for you is, again, you can plot it on a graph. And the whole idea is, in the first couple of runs, you want to know, you want to see that graph going up. And then all of a sudden it peaks. And by the time you get on the back side of that hill and your yield starts to drop off dramatically, you got to make some decisions as to whether or not you want to even keep running. Because the whole idea is to understand where the backside of that curve is and be able to dial in the temperature, pressure, and all the other factors for your equipment. So for that batch, if you have your temperature and pressure and your various different variables dialed in, you're going to see the shortest amount of time, shortest amount of resources, least amount of resources and the shortest amount of time, I guess I should say, in order to get your maximum yield. And you can't do that by guessing. And so, you know, having that intermittent testing all along the way in those first couple batches really allows you to calibrate your extraction runs for an entire batch of biomass. And then when the next batch comes in, you have to go through that process again, or else you're going to be guessing. It's like having, I mean, you know, extraction equipment is very expensive. It's like having a Ferrari and not having a steering wheel. I mean, you know, how are you going to control, you know, where you're going with it and all that kind of stuff. So that's the way that you can maximize your yields on extraction. Same thing applies to your formulation. You got to know what your input content is, what your potency of your input content is, in order to get to that consistency and quality that your customers are going to expect in the products that they're buying from you. So at the end of the day, it's optimization of all of the products and profitability that you have in your business. All right, Cree.
Yeah, no, thank you, Byron. And I really, if anybody's got any questions, I'm trying to see if we can do anything on the chat. I know there's not an opportunity to QA/QC, and at the end there's a slide we'll share. Feel free to reach out. There's a lot to absorb, but we are very hands-on. We love talking to people. As you can see, we're so involved in the industry. We absolutely love talking to people that are experienced in the space and sharing knowledge there. And then people that are new, we love to assist people. We want everybody to be successful in this incredible industry. You know, and just on a side note, I really with everything that's going on with the economy, this is something that's really something that we should take to heart, is that the hemp industry touches so many parts of industry. And it's not just ingestible product. It's the industrial hemp products that are for construction. It's industrial hemp for fiber, so for clothing and many applications. So, you know, for all of you out there, please also consider those crops as well, because those, you know, there's going to be a chance to really stand the economy up again. And I think hemp right now is an opportunity to really go in and support. So I just wanted to digress on that level too. So thank you for letting me do that. Now, you know, our bailiwick is testing. And again, we set this whole company up because of our focus on potency, and we do it well, and we do it all the time. And we're, you know, it gives us a chance to come up with the applicable data to really create more value for our partners, our testing partners. And that's what we look at you as. So we're really excited. And if for those of you who need to go and don't want to hear specifically about CanID, you know, thank you for joining us. CanID is really, it's the cornerstone of why we started the company and what we're doing, because this tool that you can have on your farm and in your extraction lab allows you to aggregate data. It allows you to capture your own data and apply that data. And the more data is available to folks that are on the ground, the people that are digging in the dirt, and the people that are extracting the cannabinoids in a lab, if we can give you tools and give you that data, it means that the industry is going to be raised up. From a health and safety standpoint, from a quality control standpoint, all of these things will raise the level of this industry. And so we're really proud to be right there at the data, right at the baseline of data capturing and giving a solution for that. So very excited to share this with you. So CanID was created by our company, Ionization Labs, and I shared with you the reason we started this company, and it was actually to fill in a problem, to solve a problem. And we're really, after 4 years, we're really starting to get some traction here. And it's taken that long because what we've done is, it's very challenging. It's challenging to go into an industry that's moving so fast. And like Byron said, testing isn't the sexiest thing in the industry, but it is fast becoming that because people realize the value of data. And the value of data contributes to the bottom line, and that is sexy. So we're the only commercially available, it's standardized, and I'll go over that, a cloud-enabled potency testing platform. And this can be deployed at mass. So if you've got, if you're a multi-state operator, these systems can all talk together and you're gonna create consistency. This application works with farmers, producers, universities, research universities, enforcement for compliance, and governing bodies. Now, this whole solution is really exciting because of its standardization. So when you acquire, anyway, here, sorry, let me give you a little bit more background. Sorry, just to give you some stability on this thing. So we developed all of our standards with this through ISO testing and ISO standards. We actually can get down to 1 part per million in potency detection of cannabinoids. To bring that around, I think California's 300 parts per million is what they require. So we're even more granular than that. We're definitely more granular than USDA testing requirements. All of our testing has, and this platform does meet all USD required, all the USD testing requirements. So whether you utilize us or would like to utilize us as a testing service, where again, we can take your samples from anywhere in the country. And we've actually got a very exciting push on that. We have a 24-hour turnaround, and that's something we're gonna keep to. And then, or if you wanna bring one of these units in-house because you use it, you're gonna be performing a lot more tests and, you know, sending a lot more tests and costs a lot more money. If you have it in-house, this will be a lot more cost effective. We have a number of things. So let me go back to the whole premise of the CanID solution. It's standardized, which means when you get this platform, this hardware platform, it's HPLC. And let me tell you why we chose HPLC. We chose HPLC, number one, because at the time, the majority of all of the cannabis labs that were performing COAs around the country were using HPLC. So we started that as a really good base test to determine what platform we wanted to use. I also personally, for GC to be used for cannabinoid testing, I have a challenge with it from a technical standpoint, because what it's doing is it's heating the sample up and it's adulterating the sample. So you're not actually getting what the sample is, you're getting the sample of what you make it. So so I've had a challenge with that. So we really focused more on creating a really pure sample, and that's with HPLC. We also purchased and rented and leased every single manufactured HPLC out there within this price point that we were working on, that we could work on scale. And
now, you guys also, when you were getting this thing started, you tried out a whole whack of other technologies as well.
Oh yeah, we looked at stuff that's just crazy, DMS, tons of different technologies. But the main point is you have to do scale, and you have to create scale. And if something's too expensive, it doesn't allow for scale. So we brought in all these different manufacturers, and we focused on this workhorse. It's an Agilent platform. And again, we're hardware agnostic, but that's after 2 years of research. That's what we locked in on because of the cost effectiveness, and it's a real workhorse. It's used in tons of industries. But anyway, so we started with that. So when you get CanID, everybody gets that. Everybody also gets the CanID software, which simplifies a very, very complicated software program that Byron shared with you. A master's in chemistry would have to, would be needed minimum to understand this software, how to read it. You'd get chromes, and you'd have to dissect all those and filter those and understand what it is. We have taken all of that, kept all the robustness of it, but simplified it with its inputs from the user standpoint and the output. So we give you, at the end of the day, a test that is easy to use, that is very accurate. So everybody's got that standard hardware platform and a standard software platform. Now, HPLCs require consumables to run. They run off of chemicals. And the one thing you want to do when you're trying to eliminate any variability would be to go to your consumables program and make sure that every single consumable that's utilized is the same. We spent a great deal of time and money in our lab investing in robotic filling. So if you subscribe to this program, you get the exact same filled vial that here in Texas, that somebody would get in Hawaii, that somebody would get in Maine, Colorado, anywhere in the country. Everybody has got the exact same platform. So, going back to our commitment to standardization and quality of data, we're starting from a point there that nobody has got out there right now. And that's a really heavy lift, and it takes a lot longer, and it took a lot longer to get to market, but we really wanted to focus on that. So you've got all these incredible elements coming together, and you've got a standard platform that's very easy to use. And I also want to share, we're not going to be able to do it here on this webinar, but if somebody is interested, if you guys are interested in us doing a live webinar for a live demo here that we can do in our lab here in Texas, we'll give you information on that, and we'd be happy to have you sign up for that. We'd love to have you take a look at our the process. We'd be very proud to show you. We do the top 14 cannabinoids right now. As cannabinoids become more prevalent in hemp subcategories, we can add. The great thing about our software in this unit is you can train the program to add more cannabinoids, and that actually matriculates out like an update on your phone. So as more requirements for different cannabinoids come in, we can actually upgrade that. But 14 is pretty strong. I think most other labs are only offering, I think 6 to 10. Some places are offering, I think, 16. But again, some of those are so minute that it's really mainly for research purposes. This is an example of our report. A QR code is automatically generated, so you can actually follow from a chain of custody. It's very simple, so you can actually put this on your product, and it'll also follow through the chain of custody. So it's really, as you can see, it's really detailed, but really easy to read. We always have our equations at the bottom so you can understand where you're coming from. The other great thing is if you're more advanced, we can offer and share with you the raw data and the chromes, so you can actually compare. Again, we're analytical partners of yours when you become a client/partner of ours. And that's how we can, and how we have been able to really accelerate in the industry, is really hands-on with our partners, with a baseline understanding that we have from an industry standpoint, and then really expanding out from there. Here's an example. Homogenization, okay? Interesting word, very important, and it really hasn't even been addressed in the industry. If you're an extractor and you take a sample and you just take it right off the line, and you take a sample off of it and you do a test and you let it sit there for 2-3 hours, and you take that same sample and you test it 2 or 3 hours later, you're going to get different results. Why is that? Because oil is viscous. It changes. The cannabinoids change. So for those of you out there that are in the extraction space, here's some free advice, and it's really going to be important. Homogenize your sample every time you run a test, and homogenize it just before you start filling it. You will experience the most consistent levels of testing. You're not going to run into trouble. And it's such a, I know it's so weird, homogenization, coming up with this focus, but it's such a key industry point. And how do we learn about this? We learn about this by going through the trials, tribulations, and challenges through our clients. So every time we work with a client, this benefit we pass along to our other partners, and that will raise, again, the industry up. And that is really what our main focus is. So here's
and Cree, I'd like to add into that, the idea that, one of the advantages for us in having this system out with all our clients scattered across the country and everything, and running thousands of tests on a monthly basis through our system, is we gain increasing amounts of institutionalized knowledge on these kind of problems: homogenization, sample preparation, various different materials, the different kinds of reagents that are required in order to handle a particular type of extract or something like that. So I can't emphasize enough how the amazing amount of knowledge and understanding and expertise that we're gaining by working with our customers, because we're talking to them on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable, as for somebody who wants a partner to try to help them be as successful as they can be. That's the idea behind that service.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the big privilege that we have, is working with everybody and helping them to become as successful as they can be with the tools that we keep honing every single week. And so that's this is an example of the simple dashboard. And if anybody is familiar with some of the other analytical software out there, this is so simple, so clean, so straightforward. And this is what we spent such a tremendous amount of time developing, along with all of the the value adds that we have.
Here's the good news, guys. If they can train me on this in 3 hours, they can train anybody.
Yeah.
Because I am not a chemist, and I'll never pretend to be one, not even on TV.
Yeah. Again, I touched upon the points of making it stable, standard, and accurate, and it's monitored. The other great thing about this, because it's cloud-based, analytical devices are sensitive. That's why they're great, but it's also why they're a challenge, because they can run out of calibration every once in a while. It just happens naturally. Happens because of the column being used, over and over and over again, and certain flushing not happening. We can track system health. This is really unique. That's the other thing. So if you have a unit in house, we can actually track the pressure, the temperature. We track all this, so we can go and proactively call and say, hey Bob, you're looking like you're running out of a little calibration here. The pressure's a little high. Do this. And we run them through the process to get them right back. And we even have a setup of calibration standards. So if you need to recalibrate the machine, we've got the product there for you to recalibrate. And we've even got really quick little unique cal checks that we've developed, which is pretty unique. A lot of people are very excited about that, because If you don't have a machine that's calibrated, you don't have accurate data. It all goes back to getting accurate, clean data in. And so, again, think you're probably starting to see there's a lot of moving pieces to what we've done here. And again, it's a lot of trial and error and a lot of time. We've tested all around the country. We've got tests. We've got clients all around the country, and a lot of these people are very successful hemp farmers and extractors. You know, we've got some great relationships with these people. We're happy to put you in touch with some of these people if you're interested. You know, these are just some of the strains we've tested, but we know there's hundreds of strains out there around the country. But there's some really interesting stuff. And the great thing about the hemp industry, y'all, is we see the same really incredible therapeutically potential cannabinoids in hemp that are found in marijuana. It's incredible. So you have a license to do incredible things if you're a grower and you're an extractor. There's tons of things you can do. Again, this is from the extraction side: oil concentrates, distillate, wax, shatter, isolate. Isolate's, you know, come into the market pretty prevalently over the last 6, 7 months, 8 months. And that's some really high, purity product. And we're working on some really great methods with that as well. There's water soluble stuff right now coming out. There's a lot of neat technologies coming out. What an exciting industry to be in. Every week something new comes out. Use cases for potency. This is one of my favorite slides. It really shows every single touch point of an industry that we can be very happily a part of. And I'm not going to go over and read all this, but you're welcome to take a quick gander at this before I move the slide. But as you can see, tremendous positive applications for potency. And, you know, this is a great list.
And I think it's worth saying, you know, Cree, that you know, a lot of people that got into the industry really came in, you know, because of its novelty and because of a lot of the neat things that people were experiencing from a therapeutic standpoint and all that kind of stuff. And they didn't necessarily understand the chemistry. They didn't necessarily understand the agriculture. They didn't necessarily understand a lot of the things about it. But one of the things that for that reason, I think has been an interesting dynamic is the testing kind of got ignored because it wasn't readily available and it wasn't easy to get to. And when you had to do it, you had to wait so long to get results back, and there are only like 300 labs in the country. And if they were all running at 100% capacity, they still can't address but about 10% of the testing need that's out there in the marketplace today. And so that's why this is such a big gap in the industry to really getting all the boats to rise, is really getting this, making this accessible to people either in-house or as a third party, to get them to the point where they can test as much as they need to in order to create consistent.
Yeah. Thank you, Byron. This is actually the slide that references some of the precision agriculture I shared with you. So we've really thought this through. We walk you through a program where you can go out to your field and you grid it out. And through the whole growth cycle, you grid it out and you take a sample from that GPS area to give you a really granular snapshot of what you've got. And you can do that very cost effectively. We can do that whether it's Can ID on your farm or if you want to send it into us. It's part of our service. Again, applied data makes you successful. Weather, I was telling you about the weather. That's another thing. We are going to be offering this next month. Some of you guys have already gone into ground, but we'll be offering this to about 200 or 300 farmers across the country next month. If you're interested in participating, please reach out to me and I'll keep you up to date on what it is. Just need your GPS coordinates and we'll drop a pin and we'll start recording that weather for you. And we'll see what we can do with the research, applied research on this for you. So very exciting. And that's going to be free for everybody this year. We really want to help people understand what they've got. So we're going to donate that solution to people. the different applicable markets, harvest compliance, precision farming, extractors, research, banking. We've been approached by the banking industry and insurance industry because they very much like what we're doing. They like our consistent platform. So you can imagine if the insurance companies, the banking folks like us, it means that we've created and touched upon a nerve that they get and understand. Out of state products, transportation, it's another thing we're kicking around with. Law enforcement, but you know, if we can help people get away from, you know, issues that they have right there on the spot, that's something there. Seed and genetics, we've got a couple of really great seed genetics and nurseries that we work with, and they utilize us to define what ratios are in certain clones that they're going to start developing out from the mother. So it's really neat, some of that stuff, to see what we're doing there. In academia, of course, schools are really starting to set up hemp programs and research programs, and we're very excited to be part and becoming part of working with some great universities here in the country. In conclusion, utilizing potency data as a tool gives farmers, producers, researchers, academia, and compliance groups the ability to work together in concert to support the testing demands to create a superior hemp industry. That, again, is our core focus. We want to support the industry. We want to be a platform and a support to create success for everybody that's involved. That said, we would love to show anybody who's interested a live demo like this at another time, of course, where we'll walk you through our lab. We'll give you a tour of the lab, and we'll also tour running a Can ID, a sample on Can ID. All of the hardware that we run in our third-party testing, or testing services lab, is Can ID, and we've got tremendous accuracy, throughput. Again, we're working on a 24-hour turnaround. It's going to be our push, and we're able to do that because of the amount of hardware that we can invest in to create throughput and then pass those cost savings and time savings on to you. We understand those Achilles heels, and we're trying to mitigate that. So please take a snapshot or look at these connection emails. I'm also available and love to link in, connect with you guys and everybody. You know, the industry, it really has to be supported by each other, and we really, there's no stupid questions. If I can help in any way, I don't have all the answers, of course, but I'm very passionate, as you can see, about this. And if there's anything I can do to pass you on to somebody else who can give you an answer, that's part of the real loves that I have in having the opportunity to work in this industry. So again, Byron, would you like to close out? And anyway, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Yeah, most people stayed on this whole webinar, so much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody, for indulging us. And you know, like Chris said, if y'all want to take a look at the live demo, we can do it virtually. You know, get you familiar with the system, show you how the ins and outs of it, and all that kind of stuff. Be happy to do it anytime. Just reach out to us.
And thank you, HIA, for the opportunity. And Shauna, thank you. And Kendall, and all these people that were here to do, Brian at Timber, Lindsay, Roderick, thank you, Stephen.
Absolutely.
Zev, gosh, everybody.
Kevin Lopez joined us and whatnot.
Dylan and Tom. Anyway, thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for letting us take your time today. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Sarah, for setting this up.
Yeah, appreciate it, everyone.